Hello everybody and welcome to another time-lapse painting. Thank you so much for joining me, and this one's called Mountains Enveloped in Clouds. As you can see, it's just a whole onslaught or siege of clouds onto the mountains themselves. More of a skyscape almost than a landscape. And this is the final piece. I would have liked a little bit better lighting. It definitely looks a little bit better than the lighting offered in this video, but you'll see at the end of the video exactly what it looks like when it's done. I got my inspiration for this painting from hiking in Glacier National Park. If you don't know where that is, it's in northwestern Montana, right at the border of Canada and very close to Idaho. And me and my friend were hiking through this high plateau, and we came across this scenery, this just massive amounts of clouds, and also rained that day, and it was very windy for sometimes, but it was a really fun day. One interesting feature about this landscape was how a portion of it was, much of it was burnt down. There was a forest fire earlier, maybe like a year or two ago, from when I went there. And there was this one cool piece of scenery where you would notice that on your left side there was just a nice regular forest, nothing untouched, pristine, and on the right side it was just completely burnt down. And me and my friend realized that what saved the forest was the trail. It split the burning from the other forest just enough so the fire wouldn't spread. That wasn't the case everywhere, but much of it was like that. But before we got to that portion where the trail saved it, much of it was burned down. This was a really cool experience. If you ever want to see this area, it was on the northwestern side, actually no, more like central northwestern side of the park. I'm trying to remember the name of the area. I think it was called like Horsehead. No, maybe not. Maybe not. It's tough to remember that, because I remember we hiked about 13 miles and I was bone soaked and shaking from the cold when I was done at night. But it was really personally, I enjoy those kinds of experiences. It toughens you up. Here we are after finishing the mountains. Starting with this light blue. I really wish I went with actually just almost white, or like grayish white. I don't know. I was thinking when I started this painting that I would go for like a happier, because of what I felt when I was there. But I realize now that when the sky is so overcast, like a happy colors don't make too much sense. There wasn't really that much color anyway during the time where there was this many clouds. It's very overcast, and it rained a bunch. So later on you'll see me changing the color of the clouds to a gray, and I painted that over with just like a semi-transparent layer of grayish white. I did that a bunch of times. I try to keep a little bit of the blue, like reasonably so. Here I am kind of just playing with the clouds, giving them the shape that I noticed when I was hiking. It's like you could tell like the clouds would like almost crash like a sea wave over rocks into the clouds. It's just a slow motion crashing. It really was stunning to see. I hope to get back there someday again. But anyway, if you ever go to Glacier National Park, any area really if you go to is just sublime. painting took me, I'm not sure. I think I have like 12 hours of video footage, just around that much of recording myself painting. So probably a little bit more than that it took me. I usually don't record everything and do take some parts out. I try to keep as much as I can. Maybe I'm just leaving in too much sometimes, I think. Just because I feel like maybe it's necessary to keep it in there. I don't want people to miss out on seeing what I do. Excuse me. I have a little bit of cold. Or maybe it's just one of those things where it's like you can't let go of the things you make. Either way, feel free to skip through the video and like look at different parts or pause or whatever, or slow it down. As always, I'm using my trusty two brushes, a millimeter round brush and my like 1.5 inch round fan brush that's turning into a cat's tongue. I've used it so much it's wearing out. And as always, I have the ends sharpened to a slight point just so I can, if I ever need them, which is fairly often, I use it to actually remove paint more than add. Although recently I found this like, I don't even know how to describe this. It's more like a, maybe like a tool you would use on an iPad. It's got this like flat rubber tip that's great for removing paint or like little area in very small areas. So I've been using that instead of the sharp tips. I don't know. Maybe later on in other videos you'll get to see me use it. I don't think I ever use it in this painting. I don't think I've removed too much paint throughout the portion of this painting, or the duration, excuse me, of this painting. At some point I think there's going to be a skip, just because or maybe it's on this video, I can't remember. What I do usually is without any audio or anything, I put together all the segments of a recording. I render that and then I come back in, and as I'm watching the video I talk over it, so I'm not talking during the painting process. Obviously, because then I'll be talking very fast, but just so if you didn't catch that. I have a lot of the clouds kind of spilling on top of the mountains. I think that's also maybe the tallest peak in Glacier, possibly. That one you can actually see if you there's like a very famous road that goes through. You can see that one pretty simply when you're on that road. And it's got this like shiny glacier if you're there at the right time of day, which is fairly almost any time it's sunny. You'll probably notice how shiny that reflection is. It's pretty cool. One thing I noticed though, after going to Glacier National Park for so long, is the amount of glaciers has definitely reduced. I think I went there when I was in 8th grade, and now I'm, how old is 8th grade? 8th grade is what, like 12 years old? 13 years old? So now I'm 35. Last time I went there I was probably 32 or 33. So in what, 20 years? The reduction was pretty intense. I remember there was like, they had portions of the road closed because there was a chunks of glacier hanging onto the road, or slid onto the road, and now the areas where I remember I saw those glaciers don't even exist anymore. It's interesting to see all that melt, go away. Plus there were a lot more forest fires from what I remember. There wasn't as many forest fires when I went there last. Or that could just be because I didn't notice that. The thing I did notice though the most was the amount of glaciers that didn't exist though, because it was called Glacier National Park for a reason, and that was because you would see the glaciers on top of the mountains, but they kind of dissipated and melted away. Anyway, here's me painting the last of the clouds. Although I come in again with a different layer. I wasn't too happy with this part. I think I was just getting late and I was getting tired. And I got a little bit impatient, but that's okay because we come back and we add more and fix things. One interesting thing I noticed whenever do these videos that you don't always notice the transition from one video to the next. I usually paint in 20-minute intervals, 30-minute intervals. Then I usually can get everything done in 30 minutes that I want to do for that specific part of the painting, and then I take it off and let it dry. Usually, not always. And then move on to a different painting. Here I am at it. You saw me adding white, some translucent white, and then some purple. And then I went and added the trees. I use a piping bag or a little cake decorator for this part. And I realized I needed to add more green, because this area, this like little plateau area at the bottom was pretty green, so I added a bunch of it's like darker, slightly, ever so slightly neutral green, but not too much in the mountains, so they were pretty. One thing I noticed is sometimes I'm like, oh, I could have stopped here, and it looks really cool. Oh, I had some during mountains too. I don't even remember. I should say it's the mountains, like the jagged peaks areas. But as you see, once it dries, it kind of loses a bit of that how vivid it was, which is what I wanted. One thing I find actually kind of hard to do is not to make things repetitive, because like, you can notice me kind of drawing them in a line, but obviously trees don't grow in a line or in any recognizable pattern, so I have to like get myself from doing it in a pattern, which is surprisingly tougher than you think, because you always want to go to do it with the least effort, and when it's least effort, usually you kind of just end up moving in a pattern. But I also want to keep the pattern slightly, just ever so slightly, to kind of create a line that gives the landscape some shape. Sorry about me pulling my nose there. I have a little bit of cold. I think I already mentioned that. As you can see, I'm drawing in the green trees. Remember earlier I mentioned that half of it was burnt down, or like it was like a trail, and then the other half was burnt down. Well, you'll get to see me doing that in just a second. I replaced the green paint with some beige. Or is it that beige? I don't even know what. Yeah, I think it's beige. It's like a very light brown with a little bit of blue in there. Now my most favorite part of the painting to paint or to execute. I ended up switching the tip that I squeezed that paint out of because it kept on getting clogged. I used to do this with a brush, where I would just scoop the paint up with the tip of the brush and then draw those lines, but for monotonous stuff like this, the piping bag is amazing. So I ended up using that. As you can see, I'm trying to kind of be random with everything. Kind of. Still keeping some lines here and there though. Anyway, see, like I said earlier, I did skip a little bit later. I don't know what happened to the video, it just didn't record. I painted everything over with like this grayish white, and then I came back and added another thicker layer over some of the areas I didn't like. Mainly this like diagonal line that where I'm painting draws from the top left corner towards the like middle right. Like, I don't like the area too much, so I came back and edited it a little bit. Yeah. One thing I want to get better at painting is trying to be as simple as possible in terms of like decision making. Like, once I don't want to have to go back and like redo something or keep on adding different layers, which I had to do for this painting. It came out well in the end, but I want to be able to like make the decision right off the bat and stick at it being the right one. But anyway, here's the final product. Thank you for joining me. Take care.